Welcome back to the KR Daily Transmission. It is my joy and delight to be introducing our Sophia Circle leaders here with you on YouTube Live. Today, we have a very special conversation with Chelsea Kyle, who's one of our certified Sophia Circle leaders out of Denver, Colorado. I've had the great pleasure and privilege to get to know Chelsea over the past few years and to witness her profound leadership blossom in so many ways, both in her individual embodiment as well as her Sophia Circle leadership, as well as her leadership in our community. And it's really fun to be connecting with Chelsea today and bringing you this conversation because we're both fresh from being at the Sovereign Spiritual Leadership Immersive in Austin, Texas. And so we have a lot of that fire still blazing within us. And I think this is going to be a conversation that you're really going to enjoy. Chelsea is such an exceptional woman, leader, partner, and parent, and she is doing such extraordinary work in Colorado. So it is my great honor to welcome you today, Chelsea. And I'm just so excited to talk about all things Sophia Circle leadership.
Woo!
Oh, you got the manual there. I love that. So share with me, how many Sophia Circle journeys have you facilitated?
So I'm on my first one currently, and I have my third circle tonight after this call. And so we're doing it with a beautiful group that's been anchored in from so many different pieces of my life. And,
wow.
And then I'll have another in-person journey at my yoga center of Denver in July.
And that's starting July 8th, correct?
July 8th.
Calling it in. So that's really exciting because Sophia Circle Journeys really launched almost simultaneously with the quote unquote pandemic. So it was like, we went from having so many leaders wanting to step forward and do this in-person offering, and then everything went virtual. How has that experience been for you to be able to continue to reach your clients and community members through this virtual platform?
It's really perfect because, right before I began Sophia Code Circle Journey, stepping into the Sophia Code as my divinity offer, I was going and receiving my Master's of Divinity for 3 years at Naropa. And so I graduated online, and I knew I didn't want to go work in a hospital during the pandemic. It's not something I really wanted to subject myself to as a chaplain. And so I started moving my divinity work virtually anyway. And I already have so many online groups and communities. So to be able to offer something virtually to my online community is perfect. And then, it wasn't really my dream to have a brick and mortar business, but right when I said, I can't do this Sophia Code Circle offering at my home, I need to have a separation from my personal space and home office to where I do these Sophia Code Circles in person and bring that kind of energy in. And then that's when the yoga center pretty much landed in my lap.
Oh, I remember that. So, because it feels like you've been a Sophia Circle leader forever. And I remember there was this whole journey where you're like, I'm manifesting this in-person center, and it like landed for you unexpectedly. And then all of the lockdown situations happened. That's extraordinary. So this has been such a big prayer, praying your expansion.
Yeah. And, still sitting with the yoga center because that, has required more rolling up my sleeves than I ever thought would happen. And we we never closed. Like, we were always open. We still offered virtual, and then anchoring in being a parent, and then bought a house. And it's just like everything quantum leaped so quickly after I made the decision to become a Sophia Code Circle leader, dedicate my divinity work, which is, a huge thing. And then I saw you, and we did the VIP in Sedona because I really wanted to know, like, if I'm going to dedicate like 3 years of divinity school, all my divine feminine consciousness, like, to this movement, I needed to be sure and meet you in person. And it was I was like, okay, I'm on board. Let's go.
Sharing that. I didn't know that. And I'm glad I passed the test. No, really, I am. Because it's
Got me that Joan of Arc. You're like, get that Joan of Arc pendant. You need that sword. And my whole house like went through a whole transition, and I moved, switched jobs, and
oh yeah, that was that session. Wow, totally. Yep. Yeah, I'll never forget that moment of seeing you on stage and like and this
dragon pants on. Yes.
yeah, and you were embodying this like fairy queen archetype in such a powerful way, but it was like you were being called to something much bigger than one archetype. You were being called to like the totality of your divinity. And that was a really big moment to witness, kind of like a changing of the guard for you, both internally, but also like with some of the spiritual guides that I saw around you. It was like, okay, everyone, we're about to expand. We're about to include some dragons. It's some more feminine energy, and it might take us to unknown places outside of the forest. And look where you are now. It's extraordinary.
I was living on a 4-acre farm forest situation. So yeah.
And what I loved witnessing was like how every time you took ground in your life and you set more sacred boundaries about what was appropriate for you and what wasn't, it was like your leadership kept expanding and growing in correlation. And then that yoga center was like, what?
And so then now becoming a mother, which is a whole nother level of, leadership.
1,000,000%. It's leadership every moment of every day. Just show up. Your baby River is so stunningly amazing. Like, by the way, like congratulations on the everything that's in your lap now. Wow. My God. So let's talk a little bit about that transition, like that big yes that you had when you stepped into Sophia Circle leadership. Was there a particular mentor that really guided you over the bridge of the yes for you?
Green Tara was huge for me because I was already working with Dakinis. I was already working with really going into deep Buddhist Vajrayana studies and learning the deep underbelly of, I was studying Buddhism, Hinduism, and I've already kind of grown up and, as a third generation yoga teacher in that lineage. So I feel like Green Tara was blazing the path. I remember listening to the Audible driving to different hospice locations. I was working, I'm a certified death doula, so working with people in their transition, and just to be able to bring that Green Tara energy and then that fierce, like, okay, we're going, like, this is happening. And I mean, I did Stargate 1, Stargate 2, transforming trauma to soul power. So, and I feel like that was the Dakinis in my house. It was just like, I felt like my room was getting bigger. People were clearly feeling that energy of just like, it's like the toxicity was just like, and it was just like burning through, and
you were taking up space in your life.
And I felt comfortable. I mean, it was uncomfortable. Of course, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it was like, I felt like, just like sitting and trying to sit through different house meetings. I just felt like my energy like vibrating, like, like knowing this was like burning something through. And now I have the space. And now I need more space, Wings keep getting bigger.
Like to take up space. It's funny how that works.
Country's too small. I need to reach out to the whole world. Okay, now the multiverse. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. So I love, man, there's so much I love about everything you just said. That moment of allowing Green Tara's presence, her emerald fire, to really blaze through your consciousness. And I mean, Naropa University was founded by Buddhists, if I'm correct. There was, so it was this really rich Buddhist context, as well as Hinduism, that was already priming you up for when you found the Sophia Code.
Mm-hmm. And then Yogananda as well, really anchoring in Autobiography of a Yogi, and then just with the actual yoga center and coming from a very strict Iyengar yoga lineage,
Yes.
and now owning an Iyengar yoga center, it's like, it is the prayer that's praying me. So I don't, sometimes I don't really want to be this business owner. And I'm like, well, you got to learn how to have that conversation with Kaia Raw on stage when she's talking about creating movement and everything it takes. It's like, I wouldn't have been able to relate to you in the same way if I hadn't known what it has taken this past year to like get real with a lot of things.
That's super cool. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think a lot of people fantasize about leadership, about influencing, about, guiding others in their spiritual journey. And there is this strange idea that somehow that happens outside of a business context, outside of money, or outside of payroll, or outside of like leasing office space and making things happen that happens for every other business to move energy forward and move consciousness forward or move products forward. And it's just like, if you look at any Buddhist temple, is always funded by some very rich patrons. There's money involved. There's always finances involved in any spiritual movement or any religion. And so it's fascinating to witness, like, when leaders discover, like, oh, if I want to be really sovereign, I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to create my own platform that no one can take away from me, where I can stand on that platform and speak the message exactly how I came here to speak it, and to facilitate the sacred space exactly how I came here to do that. And I think it's so interesting, that you are this kind of like lineage keeper, right, from your ancestry for this very specific yogic legacy, which all respect to every yogic master that carried the flame forward for future generations such as ours that are extremely diluted, don't really know what it, as a general rule, what it takes for a lineage to carry across generations of time. It usually requires very faithful, devoted individuals that step up to the plate of consecrating their life to a divine will. And I know for myself, when Yogananda started to appear to me and share with me how he was mentoring us to run an international movement, it really wasn't until I got my hands into the clay of what it takes to actually nurture and mentor a global movement that I could actually relate to him. And then once I started to relate to him in that way, it was like, oh my God, like, I cannot believe what you did. Because of course he was this extraordinary channel. He was this extraordinary mystic, extraordinary orator. I mean, but imagine the countless hours that went into sustaining that many temple spaces, that many people choosing that path. And it's really cool to hear your reflections about it. And I love that you bring that to this movement. I think one of the interesting things that we talked about in your VIP, I think it was your more recent experience, was like, how do you speak as your own unique voice while still honoring a previous lineage?
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting too, because during that time of my Naropa, I went to a silent meditation retreat and meditated for 2 weeks at a time, a month total. And
Yeah.
that fell apart because of abuse in the system. The Sakyan got dethroned, I guess, as the lineage holder, and that whole thing fell apart. Iyengar is a trademark situation and still has more, it's still operating from some of the old paradigm. And here we are anchoring this while also bringing in this whole new realm of the new paradigm, and watching the clashes, watching sovereignty displace and push away and also draw in, and just being in that dance and like finding that way to be in it, but also be the witness, has been a very interesting dance, and in control, but not, backing off from that control and only doing what's mine to do, and also anchoring something where people can create what they want to create within that. It's been really interesting. And Yogananda was going against the grain. He became popular in his own right, but he was not he was not popular. And it's like, I don't want to shake it because I have to, but I'm shaking it because it's only what's mine to do. And that's going to shake what's going to be shaken, or rally what's meant to be rallied.
I love that you're able to articulate those concepts of consciousness. It's like, I feel the spiritual DNA that you've woven together, both, you know, biologically with what you've incarnated into, and also like your soul. And can you speak to how it felt to discover the Sophia Code and witness how these seemingly very separate lineages were woven like DNA together in this blueprint in the Sophia Code?
I love it so much. I love it so much. Like, I have this Satori painting that has just followed me my whole life, and it's got Egyptian, it's got the wheel, the Buddhist wheel. It's like represents all these lineages, and it's perfect for the Sophia Code cosmology. And I never would have known, but I went and did a priestess pilgrimage for, in Glastonbury, England, and kind of marked those tracks of Mary Magdalene and Jesus, Mother Mary, and have come from some different African roots and Buddhist roots and things like that. So it's like to be able to map my journey and places I traveled and these things, it's like, oh, that was all just to be able to come into closer understanding with this particular codex, with these ascended masters. So they've already been integrated in my life. Like, and I'm like, why? Like, sometimes it felt like, why am I having to do this and this and this and this? And it's like, oh, and then Green Tara and Buddhism school. And, it's just like, okay, makes sense. And my partner and I very much feel that Egyptian, like we come from that Egyptian Isis. I think we talked about that Hathor lineage too. And I have my Magdalene pendant. So I'm really sitting with like receiving the prosperity that wants to go through me to fund movements. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's been a huge thing I've had to sit with.
That's such a Magdalene code. Like, a lot of people don't know, and I didn't even fully get it until I traveled in Europe and France. Like, there's this whole hidden history about her like lighting up parts of Europe, building an entire Magdalene empire that empowered light workers, both in France and in other regions connected to her movement. And so I love that you're calling that mentorship in with her. And tell me about what it's like to lead the Sophia Circle journey virtually for yourself. Like, what surprised you? What's delighting you? What is unexpected?
I love it because there's a manual.
I love that you love the manual.
It's like, the fairy collective. It's a lot of creation. And then, it's like creating so much. And the yoga center, we're basically building it from scratch.
Yeah.
Again, and it is, as it just takes so much to bring in all the different parts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just get to show up as the embodied way shower that I am, which of course has cost thousands of dollars and a ton of life experience to get to a place where I can literally just follow the manual and know that I'm anchoring in consciousness to be of service, and know that like I don't have to do the heavy lifting. Just my presence is enough, and me doing the networking, which I've already been doing the networking, now it's just a matter of who wants to say yes, which is not a hard sell or anything. It's like people come if they want to come, and they don't if they don't, they will eventually. So we'll do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah. What is it? Tell me about that experience of facilitating sacred space through Sophia Christ consciousness and watching how the Ascended Masters, how the Codex does the heavy lifting for you, how that manual is supporting you to witness the consciousness pouring through you. What's that feel like for you?
I mean, there's a lot that's pre-planned. There's a little bit of choosing and catering to that particular circle, and a little of that intuitiveness with that great divine masculine structure. And I just noticed, I've witnessed even just the little parts that we're having this discussion. It's like, it's perfect. It's the perfect little bit of taste to have and integrate. And then, people writing in like, wow, I really felt that this week, and their answers are so thought out. And you said this when I was volunteering with the this thing in Austin, this adventure in Austin, however you describe this quantum reality. But it's like so much of the transformation is in how the question is guided. It's in how it's worded, and not to take that lightly. And I love words and oracular creation, and just how those words are so thoughtful, in such a thoughtful codex of reading a paragraph or blessing my water. It's just perfect, and it gets to be something that can be as a marketer, someone who's been a marketer, it's like all you want is simple and duplicatable. And the fact that we have something that's simple and duplicatable, that creates a system where we can have such rapid change without it going through the grapevine and phone. I learned very quickly at this event how you can say one thing to someone and it'll come out a completely different way out of their mouth. So it's like, that's a real thing. And so it's just like, read this word for word.
Yes.
The transformation will happen.
Guaranteed every time. I love that you're speaking to how thoughtful so those of you who are new to Sophia Circle Journeys, there's a very clear structure for every single gathering in the 13 gatherings of the Sophia Circle Journey. So one Sophia Circle Journey includes 13 gatherings. Each gathering is consecrated to a chapter in the Sophia Code. And there are very powerful inner practices that unfold in one gathering, such as prayer, meditation, journaling, and group sharing. And it's all done in a way as guided by the Ascended Masters. So there's a group reading of the Sophia Code and a group question that the facilitator will offer up to the community. And what Chelsea is sharing about is like, these questions were channeled word for word, both from the High Council and from my higher self, of like, how do we use every single word in a sentence to invoke and evoke the greatest depth of inner examination that can happen in one moment? Because all we have is this 90-minute experience. So that better be a good question, right? Because we, as Chelsea shares, it's got to be duplicatable. So can that question address a beginner? Can it address an advanced practitioner? Can it address somebody who's at an intermediate level? And the answer is, the questions are yes every time. And that's because they come from the seventh plane. They come from the Ascended Masters. They're timeless. And I love that you're speaking to that, because first of all, it took a lot of time to channel that. I went through a lot to channel that facilitator's manual. And it's really beautiful to witness like how it's working for you as a leader. That feels really good. How is the experience of having that structure? How are your clients and your community members responding to that structure? The Ascended Masters shared with me that it was to create an emotionally safe space for such radical awakening to happen. I'm curious, because I think you're on Circle 3. So that's Green Tara. That's when the shit's hitting the fan big time. Or no, that's the third, right? Green Tara, Kiko 3, but that third is when we're talking to the Sophia Dragon Tribe. Sorry, I went to Kiko 3 initiation. So that's
but yes, on Green Tara,
that's when the shit really hits the fan. That's when if the people are really in it to win it with their Sophia Circle Journey. So that's when they're meeting the Sophia Dragon Tribe as a high council for the first time, and followed by a chapter talking about the divine genome. How has that structure really supported your community to experience topics that are pretty pretty cosmic?
Yeah, so going through the whole emptiness is form is also emptiness. That takes a lot, from a logical brain to then creating this like leap into the unknown. And then there's this like deep trusting, and then this arising that happens. And it's becomes more available when we download our divine genome, or we really step into our spiritual practice. And you can't really, I mean, you can logically get there, but then even after that, in order to get there, you have to be able to take that leap, and that happens in a safe space. And I went through 3 years of Buddhism school, and I saw the logical people and those ready to take that leap. There was a deep separation, and it's like that can create a schism. And there was a lot of schisms in religion, and here we are with a cosmology that is like, it holds, I've been using this word a lot, it's like the guardrails are there. You have really safe guardrails. You have this safe and trusted group of masters who are really holding your hand through it as peers, as equals, as people who are like, walk with me, like, let's do this together. And it feels that way. And I asked some of these questions on the emptiness, or, how it was phrased, and, this divine womb of no thing, essentially what we're talking about in the Sophia Code cosmology. And that's a little challenging sometimes, but to be able to just like touch in, to titrate, and also know, like, we're just titrating into this, the structure at the beginning and the end, the meditation, these readings, they all say the same. We're just going to tap in, let your consciousness simmer on that for a minute, and then let your divine genome do its thing for a week or two or however, and then we'll tap back in and get to the next layer. But we don't have to like dig it or force it or whatever.
Because you can't, your first journey through the Sophia Code, it's not even possible. You could read that book cover to cover, and you can go back 6 months later and be like, I didn't even read this book. I don't even know what this happened to me. And then you go back and you're like, oh, I can actually understand chapter 2. How is that even possible? Because it's activating so much consciousness simultaneously on every level of your being, not just in this lifetime, but in your parallel lifetimes, because it's really that quantum as a living transmission. I love that you use the word titrate. It's like, hey, you don't have to get all of this all at once. Let's just dip our toes into the deep end of the pool and see how cool it is that there's a deep
touch and go,
Yeah. And I love that there are leaders that at this point are running like multiple levels of circles where it's like, these are for my advanced clients. These are for my beginner clients, because what our leaders are discovering is, oh my God, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into the Sophia Code with multiple journeys, even to the point where I think Missy's running journeys for leaders, because it's tying together this cosmology. Because you can read about the cosmology, but it's another thing to spend years of your life being mentored by it and connecting the dots of what's really happening, because it's not spelled out in the Sophia Code purposely. It's meant to be a full blueprint that you will grok over time in successive layers of integrated understanding through your direct experience of it, which I guess is very Buddhist in nature.
I can't even imagine not having this, going through the amount of transformations I've gone through. It's like the only rock in the tornado of like upgrading every level of entrepreneurship. And you start with the Sophia Code, and it's like, what's going to be birth now? It's going to be birth now. It's going to be birth now. And to have like some anchor points, and then also to be able to have different levels to be able to support the entrepreneurs who are, helping this leverage their offerings in a good way. Yeah, it makes sense to have multiple levels. Yeah, I like that.
It's fun. So I'm curious, in your journey, that certification journey, when you walked through those modules, especially with your background in divinity school, what was that like for you to explore these modules from that lens? Because not everybody is coming to the certification program with such a background in divinity studies. I mean, that I'm fascinated. What was that like for you?
I think I was able to get through the content quicker. It was like, felt like that, how you say, like, a hot knife through butter. Like I was able to get through it quicker because I've read so many books. I've done so much of this work since I was a child. was an only child and be like, I'm gonna go to the Jewish camp now, and I'm gonna go to church family with you, and da da da. Like I was so fascinated by religion and trying to just go to everything I could for so much of my life, that I feel like for me, the moment I went through this journey, it was just like the clicking was happening, where I was like, oh, thank goodness someone was able to put all this into words of something I've been trying to like figure out, like, why do we have so many things to explain the same thing? But then you're like, you can't
Yeah.
say it because of social constructs, and then you can't say the one. And my whole business is called One Colony LLC because of my book on bees. And what I'm trying to anchor in with the bees, I'm like, oh, this is a whole spiritual thing.
Yes,
You
it
know?
is. Yes.
So yeah, so I was able to move through it a bit quicker because I was already used to things like, okay, this is going to blow up, trying to take the next step. This is going to blow
Yeah.
up. I was kind of used to those.
You were familiar with the concept that true spiritual transformation is both like the letting go, the releasing, the grieving, as well as the welcoming in of the new. And I think a lot of people think of spirituality as just like a cotton candy experience where there's no let go required. I don't know, feel free to share on that.
Well, something I've been working on this program I'm creating on sacred scheduling, and it's like there's the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer. It's like, and then we have this other, the creatrix, the teacher, and the healer. So it's like working with these archetypes, working with this blueprint, and then also having, it's like we're always creating, maintaining, or destroying. And it's like, this is getting destroyed to create something else. This is the womb of no thing. Okay, let's maintain it for a while to let it
See
get
what's
it
going
feet
to
under it. And then, these have some legs now. But it's like, we don't have to be a chicken with our head cut off. If we have something that's, as you said, like our wings can fly higher with our roots going deeper. And I've always really related to that. And that's green Tara too, like felt that deep, deep tree, like oak tree situation.
real deep.
Real deep.
Yeah. So tell me so when is your next Sophia Circle journey? Because I mean, wow, to go on a Sophia Circle journey with Chelsea Kyle, my goodness. When is this happening?
Yeah, July 8th sounds like a plan for me. I have my 33rd birthday on July 5th.
Oh my God, it's your Jesus year. Yes, of
We'll
course.
Renovations with our yoga studio, which we're really creating this to be a spiritual center, and it's anchoring in a lot of different cosmologies within that building. And so to be able to have it in this beautiful studio that I really wanted, like we've really transformed the whole room so that I felt like this was the room that I wanted to do it. So we have a perfect room. It's like gorgeously painted and beautiful stone, and I want to do it there in person. And I'll also be offering another virtual offer as well, and probably start stacking these more just to get this out to more people.
That's so exciting. So if people can't join you in Denver, they can also join you for future virtual Sophia Circles that you have coming up, I don't know, this fall or to be announced.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't have a virtual one technically picked, but I feel like once this virtual ends in August, then I really want to make this if I had to pick anything to do in my life, it'd be only to do Sophia Code stuff. It's just when I meant to when you are supposed to do things, it's hard to just be like, bye. It's like, it's mine to do.
Yeah, it's amazing like Isis has you up to with developing this spiritual center. And I remember when we dropped in, I think it was in Arizona, when it was kind of around the time that this whole thing was landing for you, like, whoa, this is happening. And I was like, whoa, Isis is really activating you. Okay. And I just want to send you so many blessings for this first in-person Temple Sophia Circle journey that you're hosting in your yoga center. I'm so grateful that we were able to interview you to promote that and to share with the world the opportunity that they have to come and gather with you live and in person. I think this is extraordinary. And given the beautiful design that we have here with your video set, I can't even imagine how gorgeous your yoga studio is. And I hope you send me some pictures. I can't wait to see. And I encourage you to learn more about Chelsea and her amazing ministry at my website.
I have to just say this one thing too.
Yes.
It's people, these people who have been in this space for, a while, they've had some issues with the massive change that we've done. We've been under construction renovation, also trying to like run this yoga thing at the same time. And change is challenging for people, and we know it. And you said like every moment of change requires some integration. So it was good we left for Austin for a minute to be like, okay, you have 10 days to integrate before we change some more. Like Bryant, my partner, who's really the brains behind this renovation, he's just like, Kaia is not good enough for Kaia yet. It is not good enough for Kaia yet. Like he wants to create this place. So it is a temple for the kind of angels, the kind of angelic light we want to actually be utilizing this space. And so just know you're like, it's always like, we got to make it good enough for Kaia to come to the heart of the United States, Denver, and like anchor some light here.
So. Got it. With a prayer like that. Are you kidding me? I kind of wanted to be like, can I sign up for your Sophia Circle Journey? I don't want to like say it on camera, but sure. Like I'm so, I feel so much love and gratitude that that's how he feels. And, I love that it's so connected to the bees, right? As that divine feminine Christ totem, it's like the beauty way, right? We're creating beauty for Sophia, it's the divine mother. And it's beautiful to see how you and your partner are honoring that beauty way of the codex. And I mean, I just feel as though there's nothing that melts my heart more than a beautiful place to worship divinity. It just eases everything within my body, heart, and mind. It doesn't even matter what religion it is. It's like if I walk into a beautiful space consecrated to the sacred, I can just relax into that moment with my own heart. And that was the prayer of this ministry, that we would, magnetize leaders such as yourself that were just as interested in the beauty way prayer. Honoring the divinity within us is also an extension of honoring the divinity of all life and the ceremony of how we're presenting this work. And given what I'm seeing right here, I'm so excited for how you and your partner are honoring it. And thank you for that compliment. It means the world to me.
We'll be anchoring. I think I wasn't gonna go, but after you made your announcement about Paris, I actually decided I am going to go to Mount Shasta and anchor in at Shasta while you're in Paris.
Oh my God. That's extraordinary.
So, yeah, I just wanted to be a route for you there. I wasn't going to go. It was right after another night.
I just literally got chills through my whole body. Thank you so much for sharing that. I actually shared a prayer on YouTube Live today about Paris because we had something really wild happen yesterday. And oh, you were there this morning. Yeah, so you already know. But yeah, that's something big's going to happen in Paris. And I'm so grateful that you can feel it and see it and know it, and that was another prayer to certify Sophia Circle leaders that were embodying this consciousness so that we could do planetary grid work on a level that we haven't seen on this planet in thousands of years. And yeah, it's an honor to do that kind of planetary grid work with you.
It's not optional anymore. It's like, this is what we were born to do. It's like,
yeah, 1,000,000%. What else is there?
It's like, no, it's actually my divine invitation to like be there. I already went last year to Mount Shasta and made my pilgrimage there and went for Goddess Fest and did fairy hair on some old comrades that used to know you there. And it's just like, this is what we're doing. We're really wing to wing, like around the whole globe and beyond. So I just appreciate you so much for taking the leap, the risk, the invitation, like putting yourself out there. I just have so much respect and love, and it takes a lot, and it takes a village and beautiful team angels. So thank you for letting me play in the playground of all that you're creating.
It's such an honor and a joy to co-create and co-lead with you, Chelsea. Thank you. And I receive everything that you just shared. But really, it's just really fun to be leading with you. So we'll see you, I believe, in Sedona And we'll hopefully get to see you live in Denver at one point for this incredible Sophia Circle Journey launch at your new temple. Please visit us at kaira.com, our certified Sophia Circle Leaders directory, to learn all things about Chelsea Kyle and to join either a virtual or her upcoming in-person Sophia Circle Journey in Denver, Colorado. Thanks, Chelsea. This has been so much fun. Many blessings.